Yeah.
Hey folks, Haas from GNAT News. Once again, we're in the studio. Once again, I'm with Fran Janik. Thanks again. We've done 3 segments. There was 2 before this. This is our final segment, and we're going to be talking about cannabis. And would you describe who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm a cannabis advocate. I'm a medical patient, and I've been working to get improvements to our medical system and to get legalization for home grow in Vermont for a number of years.
And if you watched the last segment, he hinted at the history of cannabis, and it sounded like it wasn't a good history. Can you sort of tell us about that?
It goes back to the 1930s, and there was a gentleman by the name of Hearst who you might have heard about, who had newspapers.
Yes,
he had a vertically integrated business where you owned the trees all the way to where you had the newspaper in your hands and printing and everything else. There was a gentleman called DuPont who had a corporation. You might have heard of that corporation from time to time. And he had nylon rope. And of course, hemp rope was a competitor.
Who owned the hemp rope?
The hemp rope was just what was used throughout history. So he was trying to take over the market with that. Now then along came this hemp thrashing machine, which was a threat to everybody, because now you could take this tough fiber, and male hemp plants are a very tough fiber, and you could break it down and use it for paper and other things. Mind you, the Declaration of Independence is printed on hemp. So this is not a new idea, but at that time it threatened the vertical integration of the paper industry through the Hearst publications, and it threatened DuPont with his nylon rope, and then invested in both of those companies with a gentleman by the name of Mellon, who was Secretary of the Treasury, I believe is correct. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I believe that's correct. And he was invested in both of those companies. So he had a little bit of an issue there with them not making a profit. So he took his son-in-law Harry Anslinger, and he appointed him the head of the FBN. That would be the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, which has since become the DEA. Okay, they had a number of issues that they had to deal with. Patent medicines were certainly causing problems for people and that kind of thing. But at the time, cannabis was actually being prescribed by physicians. And those physicians didn't even know what this word marijuana was. Now, marijuana comes from a Sonoran slang word for Mary's weed. That would be Jesus' mother, I believe. So they had combined this thing, and they used the yellow journalism of the newspapers to whip up this frenzy amongst the populace. And then at the same time, they made cannabis illegal by law. And even the doctors were getting arrested for continuing to prescribe it because they didn't know what marijuana was. So that's just a basic.
And they were able to make sure that hemp was included in that, even though it wasn't
exactly.
People
Anything
high.
having to do with that plant, and it was related to people that were from other countries with other backgrounds.
We've been calling it the boogeyman ever since.
Yes. Yeah, 75 or more years of lies by the government based on profit, not on medicine or on any scientific fact.
All right, thank you for that. So one of the things you hinted at that's really causing you steam is the dispensary situation in Vermont.
Yes, and let me start off by saying that I actually carried the first plant into the first dispensary to open, which was in Montpelier. And I believed at that time that we were going to really operate a really great system for patients. Unfortunately, what's happened is this monopoly has formed, where there's only 3 companies with 5 licenses. 2 of those companies have, again, 2 licenses each, and they basically formed a trade association. But up until recently, they were the only members of the trade association.
And when you say 5 licenses, does that mean there's only 5 dispensaries in the state?
No, there's actually 10 locations, I believe, right now.
Okay.
They have multiple locations.
So a licensee can have more than 10 dispensaries. 2
locations, I believe, they're allowed to have for each license at this time. Okay.
It doesn't seem it covers the state very well.
It doesn't. First of all, you have to drive many, many miles for a product, even if it's available, which it often hasn't been for patients when they need it.
I've been hearing a lot about that.
It's very expensive, and the prices have basically been fixed by the licensees.
Oh, they decide the prices?
Oh, yes, they decide their prices. They haven't lowered them. They were supposed to have built into the legislation was supposed to be a sliding scale for patients, but I believe it was 10% off. So that if you got a $420 ounce of cannabis, you're getting $42 off your $420 ounce.
Does the insurance cover
No,
any of that?
Insurance does not cover it this time. There are states right now that are making decisions in court where patients are suing to have their insurance companies, and I believe Jersey has recently made a decision in the Supreme Court in favor of the patients, and also in New Hampshire.
So there's this little tiny group
Right.
that controls the whole dispensary in Vermont.
Yes.
And they set their own prices.
Yes.
And is there any government oversight? I mean, why doesn't the state of Vermont set the damn price?
Oh boy. First of all,
We've only got so much time.
Yeah, I know. First of all, the Department of Public Safety was the only department that we could get to take this program when Mark Tucci, who was the original fellow that started it, who's still alive, and on a board that the governor has, but which is a rules committee. But unfortunately, that rules committee is also biased against the growing patients and a majority of the patients, and for the dispensaries. Again, they seem to, the containment and control is the watchword throughout this entire process. And so what we're getting basically is whatever they want to put out. And again, there's not enough material. There has been contamination in material repeatedly, and there was some contaminated material that was actually reprocessed and then sold to patients knowingly.
And how can they do that legally?
Well, again, the law, when it was written back over a decade ago, didn't really cover any testing. So the fox has been in the hen house the whole time. In other words, they were testing for potency. They were asked to do that. So they had gas chromatography, and they were testing for that. But they weren't testing for pesticides, molds, or anything else in the product for all this time.
So then people could have been consuming this for years, and they just didn't know it.
They were. The patients have come forward.
And so that's...
And employees have come forward, and more importantly.
And it sounds to me like that's something you feel needs to change. Someone needs to be testing what I'm ingesting.
Yes, absolutely. And at this point, the dispensaries, now that this has all come out, are like for testing, and yes, we want it, but they want the state to pay for that. Okay? They want the $25,000 fee that they pay for their dispensary license to go to their testing. Okay?
So in a sense, they want taxpayers to test the product that they want to eat to make sure it's healthy for themselves.
And there was the $300,000 that shouldn't have gone from the program that was paid in by patients in fees that disappeared into the general fund. Now, you've got to remember, this program was designed to never take a dime from the general fund. So Mark Tucci will be happy that I'm bringing this up, because he's still a little upset that $300K went missing when we couldn't get meds for cancer patients and others.
Okay, so I buy a bag of Doritos. I need to pay the Dorito company to find out if they put anything bad in it.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how does this change?
Well,
what happens, Fran?
What we're really working towards, and what I'm going to ask people to do, is go talk to the legislators if they feel strongly about this, is we're trying to get competition into this. And as we go forward, what I've been trying to do is expand a program that I helped to get a little bit expansion back in S16 a couple of years ago, where a patient could also be a caregiver. But what we'd like to see now is that patients or caregivers be allowed to expand beyond the one patient and go to unlimited patients like they do in Maine.
So we're branching into the caregiver concept.
Right.
So before we branch into that, let me make sure, are you good on dispensaries? So is there any legislation that's going on right now that's going to fix this problem, because it's about to get really busy in Vermont when it comes to cannabis? Yeah,
the legislation in S54, the Senate Judiciary addressed the issue of them getting a jump on the retail licensing, which would have put patients in the back row. They say they would serve their patients, but they're not serving them now, so I don't understand how they're going to do that. But there's also some issues with some impropriety in other states regarding some actions by one of the principals from the dispensaries here that the DPS has been informed of this week by a senator and a House member.
This almost sounds like one of those situations where someone's going to get a bad weed.
Somebody's already gotten it, and that's why I'm sitting here talking to you in many respects. Okay.
So the problem here, the problem's getting noisy. The problem's just going to get worse. So they need to fix this problem.
Well,
someone needs to test this stuff.
Over the entire country, big corporations are trying to own this new market.
Yeah,
and if we can do it in a different manner, as we did with Act 86, then we are doing a service for everyone here in Vermont, and we're helping other people to see that it's possible for the small person to gain access to licenses that will allow them to have a successful business. And I believe if we can get small licenses in the state, open licensing so everybody can participate, and we can get a system of testing going where the agriculture department can form a way to test the product fairly, then we will have the Vermont product be the best in the nation, or one of the best in the nation. The High Mountain Green will truly be diversified, we'll have more varieties, and most important to me, there will be more access for patients that need it.
Yeah.
You know, when you got to go to Canada for your meds, you got a problem.
Yeah, that's a big.
Okay.
Caregivers.
Caregivers.
What is that situation you were talking about?
Well, a caregiver is somebody that either grows for you or makes your oil and your meds for you, or a combination. That's a caregiver. This is somebody, you're a patient, you have specific needs. Let's say you had Parkinson's disease, God forbid, but you had Parkinson's disease. You need a specific variety of cannabis that has a THCV in it, as opposed to just any cannabis, to be more effective. Now, again, the dispensaries have stated in testimony that they can't accomplish this. They have to go with what's selling.
Right, so they don't have enough product.
They don't have enough flexibility to create for a specific patient. But if I'm a caregiver to a number of patients, and let's say I only want to take care of 25 or 20, I can't take care of more than that.
So you in your backyard can grow a specific cannabis for a specific condition that people have.
Right, you can set up a grow either indoors or outdoors.
Because the dispensary may not be able to turn on a dime and suddenly be creating a certain blend. And if there's not enough stuff coming in.
Yeah, I can turn a small speedboat faster than you can turn the Queen Mary.
I got you.
Right.
So that's what a caregiver is.
That's what a caregiver is.
They will grow what you need to feel better.
They'll take on specific issues. They'll work with specific issues for each patient, and they will tailor their grow to that patient and the product that comes out of it specifically for that patient.
And the problem was you could only have one at a time.
Right.
One patient.
Right. You can't have a small business and be a caregiver in Vermont. And so the dispensaries, once again, have a lock on what can be sold.
So you and I are both sick. There's one caregiver over there, but she can only help one of us.
One of us, right.
Well, that's a stupid law.
Yes.
So why are we doing that?
Containment and control. Again, the money is coming from the dispensaries. The state's getting the money from them. That's what they want. They want the money as easily as possible. They don't want to have to go out and inspect all these different grows and deal with that. They just want to have a very limited situation that the DPS, again, the DPS has been in control of this, and they're the state police. They don't see past the need to control the Schedule I substance. And again, this goes back to, we need Bernie Sanders and Senator Leahy and our House member Peter Welch to get in there and deschedule this. There's a lot of bills. There's HR 420 in Washington, D.C. There's S 420, and they've used the number 420 as an honorarium. And hopefully they will deschedule this. The WHO, the World Health Organization, is descheduling it or rescheduling it. And so we're behind the times when the Israelis are vaping in old age homes.
Got it.
Right.
I got it.
And your majority of your people out there that are consuming cannabis medicinally, no matter where they're getting, are in their 50s and older, from what I understand.
That was one of the things I watched. On GNAT, we have a lecture he did at Neighborhood Connections, and I don't know what I thought, but I thought I'd see mostly, I don't know what I thought, but it was mostly filled with old people looking for solutions to make them feel better.
I think everybody's over 40 at least in there,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the good news is that when I start getting to that point, we may actually have this system down.
We can fix this. I need people to come out. I need people to speak to their legislators and tell them what they feel. I'm not going to tell anybody what to feel, but please go out and say, hey, I'm a patient. I'm not getting what I need, because what these legislators are hearing are patients that are specifically chosen to go in and speak to the legislators that are obviously getting what they need out of that dispensary. And I'm not saying there aren't people getting what they need out of the dispensaries.
Right.
There's thousands of people out here affected by this. But I need everybody to stand up right now and say, you know what, enough of the monopoly. Let's raise all boats. Let's give everybody a chance. Open licensing up to a 2,000 square foot grow, where a farmer who's growing food and for people already, and they're not poisoning the people that are buying their food, can grow a clean, effective, affordable cannabis and make that farm profitable so they can get their kids clothes, food, Christmas presents, whatever it is. So they're not just stringing along and barely making it. I know these farmers.
May we live in interesting times.
We do indeed, sir. The times they are changing, as they say.
Those two sayings are right in there together.
Exactly.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you, Haas, for having us
spending all
on.
the time with us. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, Haas, GNAT News. We'll see you again.